Okay, I think it's time to get started. Welcome, everyone. It's great to see so many people here for this big event. I think the last big event we had at ISI was the 40th reunion for ISI, and I don't think it was nearly as well attended. So it's really tremendous to see so many ISI and other guests here for this event. Okay, so this is, I think, really our first ever ISI Research Day. I don't think we've ever tried to sort of present sort of an overview of what was actually happening here today. So I'm Craig Knoblock, the Interim Keston Executive Director, and I'm going to give some opening remarks and then introduce the rest of the conference today. Before we start, though, I just want to say a few words about. I understand that there was this plane crash in Iran a few days ago, and apparently several of those people were computer scientists from the University of Alberta, and I know that some people here at ISI actually were friends with some of those people. So my sincere condolences to the friends and family of those victims. Anyway. Let's get started. Let me start with sort of what I think the goals for today are. And really, I decided to organize this meeting with really two goals in mind. One, I wanted people to actually know about all the great work that was actually going on at ISI, and for the people within ISI to learn about it. We have this sort of the way ISI is configured. It's a very separate. We have separate locations. We have locations in Boston and in Arlington, and then we have these floors which don't really provide a tremendous, not all that conducive to people interacting and stuff. And so I wanted people to really know what was happening the rest of ISI, as well as to have an opportunity for people to meet all the other people at ISI. So we went out of our way to actually invite everyone. This includes all the people from Boston and Arlington. So a number of you have flown in, I know, and really a chance to meet everyone. And we've tried to configure things such that you really will hopefully get to meet many people that work here. So for example, at lunch today, you've all been assigned a table number. And with the idea being that you'll actually not necessarily sit with all the people that you already know, and you'll get a chance to meet new people. We have breaks and poster sessions, so you have a chance to sort of interact during those times, and then learn about some of the work that's actually going on here today. If I can advance the slide. Okay, so I'm not going to go into the details of the sort of the ISI scientific and technical portfolio, but I just wanted to give everyone a big picture, right? Because sometimes it's not always clear, I think, to some people even what ISI actually does. And so you can see that we have work in a number of sort of core areas within computer science and electrical engineering. Our major divisions are sort of highlighted on this slide with this pie chart, which roughly shows sort of the relative size of these. So that's not completely up to date. And this also lists the areas. But we have in the upper right, a significant amount of work in sort of hardware, high performance computing, electronics, quantum computing. The bottom right, AI, the AI division, which is probably our largest division, the computer networks and cybersecurity division, and then we have Moses, which one of our talks this morning will talk a little bit more about what that is, and since that's also a key part, and then some other smaller groups, the informatics systems research, and then other sort of emerging areas, which includes work that Dave Barnhart's doing on space. So one question is, who actually works at ISI? Roughly 400 people now at the Institute. So this includes, something like 198 staff, a number of postdocs, faculty. Now we have faculty across a variety of departments. I mean, historically, our largest department has been in computer science, but we've been growing in these other areas, so ISE and electrical and computer engineering, and also a few other departments here. And also you look at the PhD students. We have PhD students now in a number of different departments, and that seems to be growing as well. And we have a whole variety of sort of masters and undergraduates, mostly master students that are working at ISI and many projects, as well as many, many visitors. And so I didn't even include all the visitors here, and so that brings the total up. But currently, if we just look at the sort of the full-time paid employees, not all the people that are sort of visiting or maybe students that are working on directed research, we have 395 people and counting. And we've been growing. So I think it's the largest that we've been. I started at ISI in 1991, and we had about 150 people. So it's grown significantly since then. So if you want to get a sense for recent growth, so we went through a period in the mid around 2015 or so, where the numbers had dropped. Funding had gone down. Then Prem Natarajan joined ISI and did a fabulous job of sort of, I think, really turning things around, you know, and so you can see the growth here, right? So these are the latest numbers. These are the numbers just for faculty, staff, and PhD students. It doesn't include the master's students. But you can see that we've been growing quite a bit over the last 4 years or so. Likewise, if we look at sort of total institute sort of revenue, this has also been growing quite a bit. So, you know, it consists of two numbers. One is sort of the research revenue, and the other part is actually Moses, which actually brings in a significant amount of money. And you can see that these are both been growing quite a bit over the last 4 years. And then the next slide shows if we just break out the research expenditure. So this is the money that's actually spent on research. And you can see over the last 3 years, you see significant growth, you know, year over year, which, you know, is great. And one of our big challenges has been, you know, just finding enough people to staff and execute on all these interesting research projects that people are doing. And so, you know, we hope that that will continue. If we look at sort of the funding by sponsor, you see that, well, almost all of our money comes from the government. So, you know, we have a very small amount, 2%, that comes from corporate sponsors. The other 98% currently comes from various government research projects. You know, we're hoping to grow the corporate sponsorship, but that's where we are today. Then if we look at funding by sort of federal agency, then this chart shows about half of the funding for ISI comes from the Department of Defense. And I have a breakdown of that on the next slide. We see about money from organizations like IARPA, which is the intelligence agency's version of DARPA, NASA, National Institute of Health, Department of Energy, National Science Foundation, and Department of Homeland Security. So you can see, you know, this pie chart sort of shows the breakdown of those. Then we have sort of the funding. If I take that 50%, which was Department of Defense, this is the breakdown of that. And so you can see about 3/4 of that comes from DARPA, which means our overall funding from DARPA is about 33%, which is, I think, a very great sign because, you know, ISI was founded really as a DARPA shop, right? So it was, when it was started in 1972, it was 100% funded by DARPA. So now our funding is diversified quite a bit more. The other funding from the Department of Defense, we can see here is that there's, you know, U.S. Air Force, DoD other, which are agencies that don't want to be identified, and then, you know, intelligence community and so on. One of the things, the result of all of this sort of growth at ISI is the fact that we've been growing in terms of space, not just people. So this is the actual floor plan for a new space that we'll actually have in Waltham. So those of you that actually seen the Boston office, this is across the hall from that, and an additional 10 or so offices with some additional sort of common space and a break room. And so this is just under the process of sort of design and construction of that space. So hopefully it'll be available sometime this spring. But we're also looking at growing the space in Arlington. So they're also have been growing quite a bit, and we're looking at the process of leasing new space there. And then we've been doing quite a bit in terms of, you know, revamping the space in Marina del Rey. So as you know, we built a new lounge that people are excited about, which is great to see people using. We're also looking at sort of revamping some of the space we currently have. So taking some parts of some floors and trying to create a little bit more open space, you know, more community shared space for students where they can work. And then, you know, create some sort of, you know, modern, more open spaces with, you know, more glass windows and so on. But that'll be a gradual process. I just want to mention, you know, some exciting things that are happening in terms of, you know, the people at ISI. So we have a number of recent faculty appointments. So we have, I think, 5 people now over the last year and a half that have gotten research assistant professor appointments in CS. We have Mayank Kershawal, who got a research assistant professor position in industrial and systems engineering. And then Wael Al-Magid, who just got an appointment as a research associate professor in ECE. So it's exciting to see this. You know, I think this is, you know, really a sign of the strength of ISI, that we have so many, you know, people that have these joint appointments in various departments within the university. I also want to point out that we also have this sort of process of joint appointments at ISI with faculty members that are on campus. So these are tenure track faculty members that have appointments on campus. So we have Sri Narayanan, Peter Burrell, and Shang Ren. And I think this has been an incredibly productive sort of collaboration. So these people really spend time with us at ISI. I think almost all of these people are here today. But they are also key in terms of working with us on joint projects and bringing in new money and working on projects jointly with us. So I think that's an exciting direction we've been moving.